The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to the Fine to Fab Show with Lisa Lieberman-Wang, helping women reclaim their inner peace and power, going from feeling fine to being fab, fabulous, awesome, beautiful, serving to empower you to break through the barriers that weigh you down, to live an authentic life that is healthy, happy, and free. Now, here's Lisa.
Hello, I'm Lisa Lieberman-Wang, your trusted guide on your journey from feeling fine to being fab. And I want to just thank you for joining us and know that we are committed to helping you break through the barriers that weigh you down to live an even more authentic life that's healthy, happy, and free. And right now, I want to let you know that we are live, and if you'd like to be able to call in or speak and chat with myself and our guest, who's going to be the wonderful Barbara Montgomery, and I can't wait to introduce you to her. But you can call in by calling at 561-422-4365 or Skyping in at W4WN Radio. So you'll be able to do that. Remember to follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter at Lisa Lieberman Wang, and check out new site, America's Life Coach Lisa, and be sure to plug in for all these incredible tips and tricks and things we'll be sharing with you there. Now, I'm really excited about this show because looking at me now, you'd never know I had a long history of eating disorders, depression, therapy, hospitalizations, medical challenges. And after years of spending an enormous amount of money thinking there was something wrong with me and finally figuring it out that there was nothing wrong with me, there was life situations and things that happened, and it was really how I dealt with it. So it's been close to 20 years of abstinence from depression and self-sabotage and compulsive overeating, binging, purging, and you name it, and being free of internal struggles. And I'm really excited to be able to have my special guest with me because here's another fabulous woman who is today such an accomplished artist in so many ways, but has a story to share of how she got where she is, which I think is going to just mesmerize you. But I want to tell you a little bit about her. Again, Barbara Montgomery. She's a jazz vocalist, music producer, TV director, producer, stars to many. She's done work with the Institute of Achievement for Human Potential since 1980. She's also an incredible activist for gun prevention because of something that happened to her daughter's best friend at an early age. She uses music to help teens deal with violence in their lives and has an incredible retreat that really gives back all the time. She's the president of the Tibetan Buddhist Center and has been a student of the Dalai Lamas for years. And you really want to learn from this incredible woman. And I can go on with a list of accolades because she has really had so much accomplished, been on tour as a jazz vocalist, as well as directed and did things for big names that you've heard of before. But I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about it. My friend, and happy you're here, Barbara Montgomery. Hi, Barbara.
Hello, Lisa. I am so honored and happy to be here with you. Truly, it's such a delight. Thank you.
Oh, this is exciting. And it's so funny because we have known each other for so many years, but we knew each other from a distance up until the last year or two. So it's really incredible seeing your success, but not even knowing where it came from and the stories behind the stories.
It's also interesting. We have so many stories that we all do. That's the beauty of our lives that we share. It's all of these stories, and if we would just stop and take the time to learn each other's stories, we would know we are all in the same boat. We think we're in all these little boats by ourselves crossing the great ocean, when we're really all in the same big boat. We just aren't turning around and saying, hey, help me row. And we can do that. And that's what you're doing with this great show. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, we're giving people oars.
Right, exactly.
So they can go out there. So, Barbara, there's really so much that we can talk about, and we're just pick and choose as we go here. But let's just start by giving a little bit about your background, because you didn't come from here. You didn't grow up in the United States. You had different early years than some of us.
Yes.
So why don't you just share, give us like a bird's eye view of some of the things that brought you where you are now?
I think one of the things that it's so interesting as we all grow up, we think that this is the way everybody grows up. And I didn't realize until, I got into my teens, I suppose, or actually until I was in Southeast Asia. I think that was really the turning point. That everybody didn't move every 2 years around the world. I thought everybody grew up that way. And when I found out people lived in one place their whole lives, I thought, how interesting. But that was all I knew. My father was an international company. He had an international company as an electrical engineer. My mother was a absolutely wonderful, terrific, I don't know how she had 6 kids in 7 years and moved every 2 years around the world as a teacher as well, and then a high school principal, and made it seem so seamlessly easy for us all that we thought it was perfectly normal to pack up the house and crisscross the U.S. and Canada and go around the world and live in all different countries and always be the new kid block. But they made it seem like it was easy and normal. And I think that's something that our parents, the gifts that our parents give us, or sometimes parents who aren't able, because of their own wounds, haven't been able to pass those good positive gifts along, sometimes, run into troubles there. So I'm very grateful to them. They both passed on, but they made it seem very simple and easy. But it wasn't without its challenges. I mean, it did inform my life in more subtle ways. Particularly then at one point moving the family to South Vietnam in the early 1960s when we were very heavily involved in the war, but we just weren't announcing it to anybody. This was when we were in the secret war. So when we went there, we had no idea that we were being plunked down in the middle of, say, Beirut or Baghdad in the current, situation in the Middle East. That was what was happening in Saigon. So you grew up very quickly. I got there at 14 in 1962, and in about 2 weeks I was 30 years old, I think. You had to grow up very quickly to learn how to survive. But because you were a teenager, naturally you think you're going to live forever, right? When we're teens, we're immortal, we can do anything. So here we are living in this rather bizarre, surrealistic backdrop of a war going on several different levels between the South and the North, as well as an internal. And we're, having boyfriends and girlfriends and sneaking out when we have martial law going on. It was a pretty interesting situation, I have to say, but it certainly taught me a great deal. I was in that present moment all the time, and I really didn't have any struggles, I thought, until I really came back to the United States in 1965, and then you really saw the difference from where we were, and especially where we were in America at that time. But it definitely informed my life living in that way, and at that time, and then also in ways that I had to heal many years later, which I didn't. I pushed a lot of it. I think I had told you I was a survivor, and I have been a survivor. And then I realized later in my life I didn't want to be a survivor anymore. I wanted to be someone who thrived. Because embedded in surviving, I realized for me, was the victim mentality still. I was a victim and I survived it. And I think we need to go through those steps. I think it's important to get to the place where we can then thrive, where we really release all of that, as you have done so beautifully, and so many others,
And that's really the big thing, too, because I've shared not necessarily this moment, but in past conversation shows and stuff like that, that I spent years after sharing that I had been sexually abused, that I used to go to meetings, and it was for survivors, and it was the same meeting that I had to go to for Overeaters Anonymous and other stuff, and they'd have us say, you know, hi, my name is Lisa, I'm bulimic and a survivor, and I hated the word survivor because it was so much tied to me to already losing. Like I just like you just made it, and I did feel like I was the victim when you said it. So I'm happy you just shared it the way you did, because so many people do live in the victim mentality until they even get to the thrive type of place. Now, what's interesting is that, you know, a lot of the stuff of you even being in that place, you know, people don't even realize that over 85% of the female population has been sexually abused or violated in some manner for them. And yet it becomes such a secret that we hold to ourselves, and a lot of us, and I did it for years, and are going to use it to hurt ourselves, to replace something that we had no control over.
Well, exactly. And, you know, that's something that it's only in the past. Well, let's see. It's interesting because coming back from Vietnam, I'll backtrack just a tad. Coming back from Vietnam and being that traumatic of a situation, coming back into a country in the 60s that was so divided and not understanding what was really happening there. I certainly wasn't understanding what was happening in America because we weren't told the truth about what was happening in America at that time. And it's really quite humbling that we're on the interview today on the day of Martin Luther King's, the anniversary of his amazing speech, I Have a Dream. I just got chills thinking about that. Just got chills.
Right, that's right.
But coming back to a country that, again, was also divided, and I really shut down for a long period of time and went into just my addiction. And again, many of us have addictions that we don't know about because maybe they're healthier in the way they manifest. Mine was to do things. As long as I kept doing something, I didn't have a problem with alcohol or a lot of vets. There's a sexual promiscuity. There is drinking. There is drug abuse, suicide, et cetera, whether you're a civilian or a combat veteran. Mine was to just do things because as long as I was doing something, I wouldn't stop and remember the horrors. So for a long time, I never spoke about Vietnam. I never talked to anybody. I would only sit with other vets, and we would just be silent. We wouldn't even talk about it amongst ourselves for a number of reasons. And then I realized this was not Lisa until, 8 years ago, that I finally really acknowledged out loud the sexual abuse that occurred in my family from a male member of the family from the ages of when I was 4 years old to 9 years old. And never spoke about it in the family, never spoke about it after that, told myself I was fine.
My fine, right? My fine or you're fine, right?
Right, fine. I'm fine. It didn't bother me in the least. I'm absolutely fine. That's why I got married multiple times and all to addicts, and it all fell apart. Oh, no, I'm fine.
And for those that don't, some people don't know that fine to me stands for effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And I think that, you know, and it's really where we are. And I actually use that word a lot when people say something I don't agree with. I tell them that's fine.
Well, there you go. And, you know, we're functional fines.
Yes.
We're overachievers and we're fine, but we're not fine. And so I did all of these I feel they were very positive things. I was very driven, but
you've been quite successful in your career.
I have been very successful in career, but you know, the Achilles heel, and because it was from my youth and then from Vietnam and all of those things, my interpersonal relationships in terms of my marriages, obviously that was where I wasn't fine in any way, shape, or form. But I told myself whatever I told myself, but it wasn't until I really acknowledged where the wounds came from, healed them, and let them go, that I was really able to truly thrive. And I feel now at 65, I am healthier, happier in every single way than I've ever been in my entire life. And it is a blessing. And every single thing that's happened to me on the way, though, I've needed all of that on my path. I don't wish it on anybody, but every single thing, it's the traditional lemons to lemonade or turning the negative into a positive. It is, as you said earlier, it's how we respond to it, not react. It's how we look at it, how we view it, and how we choose to play it out in our lives. And we all have that choice.
You know, and I do want to talk about some of that stuff, because what even seems to us like as bad choices or how we dealt with something, I always like to look at it as that at that time we did the best we could with what we knew. And, you know, not even acknowledging or realizing or giving any credence to things or telling the stories. I happen to have for years felt I did something wrong, Barbara. Like I had said to my mom when I'd gone through all these hospitalizations, and to me something that was mortified, you know, people even knowing what I was doing to myself and hurting myself and hating myself as much as I did, that I wouldn't let my family tell anybody about any of the stuff I went through. Anybody. And I swore them to secrecy for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I remember something happening, it was about a year ago, and I was talking with Tony Robbins, and I said, and it was like a moment, I said, oh my God, how bad was I? I said, I can't believe it. I made my whole family, if they wanted to have any relationship with me, they could never talk about what happened. And I felt like, geez, I did them a disservice not letting them, you know, in my mind, not letting them like go through this. And then I said, you know what? I did them such a favor. They didn't have to replay a bad story over and over again. We all got past it. And you did that like in such an incredible way, because although you might have acknowledged it later, like you said, you found a way to get through that and you didn't talk about it. But I know that the stories you had to be telling yourself were ones that wouldn't have been shared and probably would be of great value to understand. How did you even deal with the stuff, what you told yourself, not the stories you told others, to continue to move on, to know there was more? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, wow. It's so interesting listening to we came to the same place, but for some different reasons. It's so interesting what we all do to be able to get through the day when we've gone through things like you've gone through, I've gone through, and the millions of women who have gone through similar situations. And mine was, you know, not to tell anyone, not because I wasn't, you know, it wasn't that I was ashamed of myself. I was very fortunate that my parents allowed us an immense amount of independence, and it was we just kind of knew that, you know, we were strong, independent people to a fault, because it became a problem to ask for help. And that's one of the greatest gifts we can give other people, is to ask them to help us. And I started to pride myself that I had the Superman t-shirt on, and then I finally had the Superwoman t-shirt on, but growing up, the Superman t-shirt.
Yes.
That I wasn't going to, because I knew how difficult it was for me to maneuver this. I didn't want to put my problems onto somebody else. And I knew that the situation in my family when I was younger, it wasn't that I felt that I had anything to do with the sexual abuse, but I knew that if I told my parents, my father would have killed this person. And so I was protecting someone else rather than protecting myself, rather than having healthy boundaries myself. So it's very interesting how that then becomes internalized as you become an adult, that you're still trying to fix the 4-year-old or the 5-year-old, or you're still trying to fix the situation that the 4 or 5-year-old couldn't fix. I don't have to anymore. I don't have to. I can just put those bags down. That happened. That was then. And it is now, what is today? August 28th, 2013. You know, it's not August 28th, 1959 or 1955 or 1963. Something with people who are working with post-traumatic stress, one of the problems is that neurologically, the memories get stored in our short-term memory. So we do think it's 1963 instead of 2013. And when triggers occur, the brain doesn't allow us to have it in our long-term memory where we don't have that, you know, that horrific response. So that's something that I had to learn by finally going through a post-traumatic stress program myself, which I didn't do until 2005. And really, again, I did it because I was doing so much work with kids who are in constant traumatic stress, with my work with gun violence prevention, being the head of the Million Mom March for Pennsylvania. I was worried that maybe I would go off the deep end because I had never really looked at my years in Vietnam and looked at the sexual abuse and said, okay, that's what it was. Now just really let it be. Don't let it inform your life anymore, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever way, And that was a very beneficial thing. I learned a lot from that. But I also learned that I was doing a heck of a lot better than I thought I was. And that was nice, too.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people don't realize that everything we do is based on what we already know. So if you only have references to one thing and our mind is going to go look for those references, it looks like this, it sounds like this, it must be this. It's a normal instinct for people to do that knee-jerk reaction and think it must be the same when, like you said, it's not the same. It's not even the same year, place. It just looks like it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, truly. And that's something I also found in my particular practice, referencing His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who have been very blessed, and I wasn't raised in a Buddhist tradition by any means, but having learned about it and just adding it to my toolbox, it's really what it is. I really had a toolbox that was kind of small and puny and didn't have a lot in it, and boy, it's a really nice toolbox now because I learned so much from so many different places, practical ways to get through all the challenges, all the joys, all the sorrows, all the whatever it is of our lives. But I can go into my toolbox now and, I can find something that I can use that will be helpful in a skillful way to maneuver that and stay in the present with it rather than related to some long-lost injury from some time long ago that was in the past that doesn't exist anymore, or anticipate a future suffering that hasn't even occurred. Get out of that place in my mind and just stay present and say, I know what I can do here. I can stop and breathe. I can stop and think about what I'm going to say before I say it. I can think about maybe what's happening in the other person's life to make them behave the way they are right now. I just have more tools now, and His Holiness, the Buddhist practice, along with my studies of Christianity and Judaism and all the great traditions in the world, so many great teachers that we have around us everywhere.
Absolutely.
But use it, not just read about it, but actually they taught us these things to have us use them, to benefit ourselves and each other. So that's been a real gift.
Well, I think the gift is not even the fact of having them, but actually using them, as you said, because they've been available to all of us for centuries, but not everybody decides to apply what they learn, and you've been masterful at doing that. Now, with all that happening, as if that wasn't enough, because you've gone through so much, and, what would be some of the things you can share with us for, like other things happening? How did you ended up getting sick, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, well, that was interesting too. I mean, even prior to that, when I have a wonderful, two beautiful children that I'm so immensely proud of, and my daughter was born second and had her umbilical cord around her neck and the oxygen lost to the brain, so had a pretty profound brain injury. Well, I thank heavens I had some tools that I was put in a place 9 years before that at the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. However, I found that it found me working with brain injured children, and then 9 years later, I had my own brain injured child. So rather than, woe is me, it was, and I think women are this way. We really do have this in us. We have that. We live longer. We endure, and we just take care of what needs to be taken care of. And I think culturally, that's been taken away from us. The women's wisdom, grandmother's wisdom, all that wisdom to persevere. But it was using those tools and saying, okay, I have to fix my daughter. And just staying in the present moment with that. That was truly a day-by-day experience. Then she had another accident 19 months later, and we started all over again. So it was just, again, really day by day having to stay present. Then, yes, I did contract cerebral spinal fluid Lyme disease, and that journey was a profound teacher for me. I think that in a way, because of not being able to stop, because of the Vietnam years and the other traumas, and as I said before, my addiction, quote unquote, was do. Thank heavens they had positive outcomes
Right.
in the music industry and in the entertainment businesses that I've started and things that I have done and things that I've been able to do with the gifts that I've been given. But I think the universe finally said, Barbara, there's no balance here. And we've told you to slow down and you haven't. So we're going to make you. We're going to completely shut you down. And for the first year, I was misdiagnosed, as many people are, with Lyme disease. 11 doctors, 11 different diagnoses. I was losing more function every day. My son's father was going through diabetes at that time. My mother with Alzheimer's. It was not an easy time, Lisa. I mean, there were some days that were not so good. I didn't get through them so well. But I leaned on, again, the tools I had in my toolbox. And one of the biggest ones was just breathing. I mean, I don't know if people understand how powerful it is to reconnect with your own breath and get out of your mind, get out of the thoughts that we're creating that absolutely drive us crazy, and we're just doing it really to ourselves. I had no choice. I mean, I had about 6 weeks of sleep deprivation and also excruciating pain from this way this Lyme disease manifested. And so there was one period of time where my daughter would go up to bed and I was on the sofa because at that point I couldn't walk or crawl. I had gotten from not walking to crawling, and then I couldn't crawl anymore around. And I would just cry, knowing that I'd be up for 8 or 9 hours until she got up, and literally all night long just used a breathing meditation to get through the night for 8 hours, just staying present in the breath. It's something I will never forget, and I think that's important to remember, that if we've gotten through times like that, anything that we have now on our plates, really, we can handle. You know, if you remember where you've been, you know that anything that comes along, you'll be able to handle it. And even, I think, perhaps more skillfully than we did before, as long as we remember and use it in a good way. So that was a great teacher for me. But I never gave up also, because I had a family. I had my children. I had my mother. I had other dreams and hopes and goals that I still knew I had to realize. So I had to meet you. I didn't know it, but I knew I had to meet you. You were in my path. So
Absolutely. You know, it's like you said so many things that I just want to even recap before we go to a commercial, because, you know, just even let's talk about the breath. And I'm such a believer in heart breathing. And that's just really 3 minutes of real deep breathing where the air fills your belly. It's not women holding it in. It's actually letting it go out and, you know, taking it in, holding it, and then letting it out, but also clearing your mind, because when you do it, it does, if you can actually take the brain waves of your mind when you're breathing, and then combining with the breathing, you can level yourself out at equivalent to 4 hours of rest. So I'm a big proponent in breathing, and, you know, my expression with HALT has been something that's saved me for years, because I always lived with hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stop, and I would be a runner too. I was a doer, and I didn't want to give that an addiction, but if I want a new one to add to my list, I'm going to call, I had that one too. You know, it's like I used to be afraid that if I stopped doing, right, then I would feel. I kept doing, and obviously I think I'm still a doer, but like you said, it serves me better than some of the other things I had done to myself in the past.
But isn't it interesting that we're called human beings, and yet we all run around being human doings?
Oh my God, yes. And that is so much why I am so much about be happy, healthy, and free, present.
Yes.
So we're be. And you know, and the other thing you said that was, I mean, there were so many huge things of one, having a vision, you know, that there was more to do, whether it needed to be there for your family, even to the point when you were younger thinking you had to protect an offender, to be there to protect your daughter, to being there. It was always about somebody taking care of somebody. When I'm hearing your story be replayed, and it goes back to what you also said, as my grandmother said, and I'll leave this before we go to the commercial. My grandma always said to me, baby, take care of your mother's daughter, because I was so great as you were, and you still are in so many ways, of taking care of everybody else. So on that note of take care of your mother's daughter, we will be right back after this very quick commercial break. So if you'd like to Skype in at Women for Women Radio or call in, we'd be happy to hear you. Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've always wanted someone to connect with on your path to a happy, healthy you, I've got great news. In her #1 best-selling book, Find to Fab, 7 Secrets of a Successful Woman's Journey Away from Depression, Disordered Eating, and Self-Sabotage, Lisa Lieberman-Wang shares how you can experience your breakthrough just as she did. Start living an authentic life without blame, shame, or years of therapy. Buy now at findtofab.com.
Now that I have your attention, ladies, when you need help breaking through the barriers that weigh you down, turning to food is not going to help, and starving yourself, along with ongoing feelings of helplessness and frustration, will not help either. The cycle of self-sabotage, disordered eating, and stinking thinking has to stop, and there is no better way than with other smart, business-savvy women like you who are making the change with best-selling author, licensed master NLP practitioner, and trusted guide, Lisa Lieberman-Wang of Find2Fab.com. Lisa will help you get that breakthrough you've been waiting for. Go to Find2Fabshow.com right now for all the details of the life-changing 10-week transformational program and the special listeners promotion. It's time to turn your life from feeling fine to being fab. Fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Go to Find2Fabshow.com now.
Welcome back. We are with Barbara Montgomery, our incredible, talented entertainment, jazz vocalist, music executive, music producer, publisher, artist, incredible woman. Barbara, I just say that again because, first off, you said 65 years old, so thank you for sharing your age, because I always do that. I tell everybody I'm 50. And I keep saying it until someone says, "Oh, I thought you were." Until they actually think I'm that age, then I'm going to stop. But in no way. I aspire to look as beautiful as you now, let alone when I get to your age.
We all have, as you know, we have a chronological age. And then we have our biological age. Chronologically, I happen to be 65, which is fine. We're all going to, the universe willing or God willing or spirit willing, whatever, we will be to wherever we are chronologically. But biologically, we can be 20 or 30 or 40, or I could be 65 and be 95, and I have chosen not to be, of course, and everybody has that choice. I mean, the number is truly just the number. I love George Burns. Remember beautiful George Burns?
Yes.
About 105, smoking his cigars. Not that I say everybody should be smoking cigars. They don't have his genetics. But, still doing stand-up at 105. I mean, Jack LaLanne, who was one of my idols, naturally growing up with
mine
Jack LaLanne
too.
In the 50s. And well into his 90s, having a life of quality and service and joy. And, if we choose to tap into that, we can. And it doesn't mean that every day is a bed of roses. It's not. Life is life. As Zorba the Greek said in Anthony Quinn, which I loved, he's dancing on the beach, and he said, life, it's the full catastrophe. And he had this big smile on his face and the joy of knowing this is as it is, but we're all here together. And it's the beautiful thing. We have so many strengths in our diversity and our commonalities. And really, it's a good thing. As sometimes scary and not so good it may seem.
I agree. And, and that just brings us to where you said before, too, is because of all the things you've been through is why you are where you are today. And I know that's really become such a bigger mission, whether it be for prevention and gun control, whether it be for empowering these young artists to give them a place to get out of the inner cities and to really put their attention towards other things. This has become a big thing for you is giving back. And I know that has a lot of healing there too, but do you want to go a little bit into that on why that became so important and how you're serving others at that point?
Well, I think we all, we're always, the eternal question, why are we here? Why are we here? And I have found finally that, sometimes that's a waste of time to ask why, and it will be revealed if we will have faith and stay on a path of understanding our common humanity. And I can't certainly be happy if there's any suffering truly in the world, truly with any other human beings. If they're suffering, how can I really be happy knowing that other people are suffering? And yeah, I do want to be happy. There's a little bit of contentment, equanimity. We all do. We all want that. And coming through what I've come through and being able to maneuver it as I have been able because of the gifts I've been given from my parents, from my own spirit, I suppose, or consciousness, or whatever, that is. All the teachers that I've had, all the kindnesses, even the folks who weren't so kind, I learned from them more, right? You learn, as they say, from your enemies more from your friends, or from those challenges that you learn so much more. The fact that I was able to find ways to maneuver them, and not everybody has been able, nor is it possible, because then they need teachers too. We all need that help, and I realized that was something I could do, and that's something that was a gift that I had been given to be able to do that. And going through the 12 years with the Million Mom March and doing so much work in community and with children and all different levels of things, there was, of course, the legislative aspect, going to Washington, D.C., going to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the capital of Pennsylvania. I found that really my strength was more in the grassroots, in the community work, working with the kids and helping them find ways to heal all of these things that we all go through, because we're all in a constant healing process, whether it's from a physiological disease or a psychological or emotional, so that we can reach our potential. We can reach the blossoming of who we are, and we all are such a great gift to the world. And a lot of people don't get told that often enough. A lot of children don't get told that often enough. They don't have a safe haven in which to allow that to flourish. The more I saw this, the more I realized, we need a place. We need a safe haven, a place where, ideally at the beginning, initially it was for musicians, because I am a musician, and the artistic community doesn't get a lot of support in this country, unfortunately. So I thought, let's combine the arts, music, with a mentorship of youth, and have it be an organic, not a structured, because I am a jazz musician, a lot of improvisation there, but to have a space to allow things to manifest and see what happens. But we have to have a place, and a safe place, and create that safe place. And so I did start a nonprofit in 2007 when I started. 2008, all the paperwork went through. I was very fortunate that it went through as quickly as it did, and found a beautiful location in Chester County, Pennsylvania, 7 acres with a 300-year-old mill with a big open space and a waterfall. Good feng shui, as they say. It's absolutely beautiful.
It was just, if anybody, you need to be there to feel that it's more than just what you're describing, yes.
The feeling is great. And the interesting thing is the Lenni Lenape, indigenous peoples of this part of the world, before, sadly, they were removed by William Penn's son, were one of the most peaceful groups of people, and this was where they lived. And then the next group of people that came to this area were Quakers. I find it very interesting that you have a very peaceful environment that drew peaceful people. I mean, there was a connection, I think, definitely, and there's a very large quartz ridge underneath, not far away from here, which, of course, we know that, if we would be more connected to our Earth, I think we'd understand more about the healing properties of our Earth, and I think more and more people are realizing this. So there are a lot of things in the actual geography of the place, as well as the building, as well as what we've created here, that has been very useful and very helpful. And I just I don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. The people that I have worked with and kids that I have worked with in the years of the community work with the Million Mom March, I've had groups come out, and then they tell someone who tells someone who tells someone. I have families who will come out just for a family retreat day because the family has some problems, or young people who just need a day of reflection and quiet. Or I had a group of 10 kids come out from the inner city for a songwriting workshop for 3 days. But it wasn't just the songwriting. It was how to learn to live in community with 10 kids, 10 years old to 17. We had chaperones as well. But, how do you live together? How do you solve the everyday problems that come up? And they do. How do we deal with conflict resolution? Not in a way where we're preaching to them, but we're living it and we're giving examples of it. And they don't get a lot of that in a lot of these neighborhoods. So now it's opened up to be a retreat center for just about anything and anybody, which is awfully nice the way that it's organically, as I say, developed. So hopefully some people will realize that we all need a retreat. We all need a break. We all need a safe place, even if it's for a couple of hours, and come and sit by the pond. It's nice, right? Come sit by the waterfall. It's nice.
Absolutely. I think that if it gets too well known, it won't be as much of a retreat anymore.
Well, it's small enough. The nice thing that it's not so big. Like there's so many beautiful retreat centers like Omega in New York and all sorts of other places. And they've become very, very large with lots of programs. And that's great to have that as an option. But this, because of the nature of it, will always probably be on the smaller side. I can only sleep, 7 to 9 overnight. So you won't have the challenge of that. But it is without a doubt an incredible place to be, and you can feel the healing properties, and the whole area just is very special. And once anybody gets there, you know that. Oh, it's beautiful. So, Barbara, share with us, you had a point where this is enough. You decided to even go for further help to see whether it's the post-traumatic stress and other things that you've gone through. But if you were to, we're going to close, we only have like a couple of minutes. What would be 3 things that you've learned from your experience that's helped shape your life today? Or we can just give the listeners a couple quick tips that they can apply for themselves. Well, I would go back to say, please, the simpler things really are the better things, and the simpler that you will look at your life and get out of your thoughts. Not that our thoughts are not valuable at times, but really returning to the breath, returning to breathing and reconnecting with that breath that's our spirit of life. People may think it's very simplistic. However, there is a breathing meditation practice in all of the great tradition. There's a contemplative practice that has a breathing meditation all across the board for thousands of years. And the healing aspects of that are very, very profound. It's simple, and yet it's a tool we have, all of us, that we could use. And if you could get into a regular practice, whatever way you want to do it. I mean, I have a simple one. Lisa, you shared a little bit of yours. There's one where you just count to 8 in and count to 8 out 10 times a day. Do it in the morning before you jump out of bed, and do it at night before you go to sleep. That may seem very simplistic, but it can have profound effects. Stay in the present moment. Truly stay. Make every attempt to stay in the present moment with whatever occurs, and realize you have a choice. I guess number 3, always know you have a choice. You have a choice in what you choose to think, what you choose to say, how you choose to act on those thoughts or those words. You always You may not think you have a choice, but truly understand you always have a choice. And if you feel that you don't, reach out for help, because we're here. There's a Lisa Lieberman-Wang in your neighborhood. There's a Barbara Montgomery in your neighborhood. There is someone there who is there to help you. Never think you're alone. Never. I beg of people, please don't think you're alone. I've lost too many friends who thought they were alone, and you're not. We just have to reach out. So I guess that's 3.5. 3.5.
That's outstanding. And it goes back to what you said at the very beginning, is to ask for help. And, you know, reaching out and asking for help. And that's the one thing that even for myself I can recognize and take hold of, is I never wanted to ask for help because I always thought I needed to be Superwoman. And today I'm so happy and taking imperfect action in every way. I want to thank you for being here, Barbara, and I want you to give them a website address or how they can find you for the farmhouse,
Yes.
and we'll make sure we'll post it on the website too, but would you share that?
Yes, absolutely. The farmhouse, it's www. and the letters BNB, jazz, the word jazz, BNB, jazz.org, and then an email address, because they certainly could email me. And as a jazz musician, we've got jazz everywhere, because music heals. I'm a firm believer. Everybody should be listening to music every single day. And also, by the way, laugh. Laugh. Every day, every day, every day. Barbara at bjazz.com. Barbara, the old-fashioned way, B-A-R-B-A-R-A, at bjazz.com is the email address, and it would be a delight to hear from everyone or anyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity, dear Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, you are fabulous, and I'm so excited that you were able to do that. There were so many little pearls of everything that you've shared with us, Barbara. I actually think I've been taking your advice as though we didn't really know each other for the last 20 years, but we've been following, as you said, the same guidebooks.
Right.
to get to the same place. So there is a strategy, and for those that think there isn't, there is, and it really comes back to the things that I share in the book. In doubt, taking inventory of life's lessons and beliefs, breaking through the toxic meanings and emotions, breaking the trance, and uncovering unconscious patterns and behaviors. And my big one, stop waiting for perfection, and finally making peace and practicing gratitude and learning to celebrate. And I love celebrating and laughing, by the way. I laugh a lot. As a matter of fact, it's been said to me that I'm always laughing, and I used to think that was a bad thing. I'm saying it's good because I didn't do it for years.
Yes. Oh, it's a great thing.
So I'm grateful to have that too. So thank you again for being with us, and for our listeners, join us every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at findtofabradio.com or Women for Women Radio. That's W4WN Radio, also on iTunes. And we look forward to being with you next week. Remember, you are fab, fabulous, awesome, beautiful.
Feeling tired and achy? Frustrated with allergies? Stress causing you high blood pressure? If you're ready to feel better, have more energy, maintain healthy cholesterol levels, joint flexibility and circulation, looking to reduce inflammation, support healthy glucose levels and sinus relief, plus so much more, Isotonics OPC3 is a food supplement made from a combination of bilberry, grapeseed, red wine, and pine bark extracts, and citrus extract bioflavonoids, all found to be powerful antioxidants. Oligomeric proanthocyanins, OPCs, are bioflavonoids found in fruit, vegetables, and certain tree barks that provide exceptional nutritional benefits to the human body. Studies have shown OPCs to be up to 20 times more powerful than vitamin C and 50 times more powerful than vitamin E in neutralizing free radicals. Isotonics is delivered in an isotonic solution, which means that the body has less work to do in obtaining maximum absorption, as you can drink your vitamins. No pills, binders, or fillers. Buy now at www.amillionproducts.com. Isotonics OPC3.
When I see